Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Nerd to the Third Power, your one-stop shop for all things nerdy and awesome. I'm your host and master of ceremonies, Dr. Gonzo. With me, as always, this epic quest of awesomeness is our resident anime goddess, the Cat. Cat, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm not too bad.
Yeah, good. Looking forward to just counting down the days until you drown in candy on Halloween?
Yeah, I was decorating my office today, and I have to run out this weekend and finish everything I need for my costume. But yeah, I'm super excited.
Oh, what's your costume this year?
I'm gonna attempt the Supergirl TV version of the Silver Banshee. Not because I particularly enjoyed the character or anything. She was all right. Like, not a great villain or anything, but her aesthetic is really interesting. And I think it would be really fun to try the face paint.
Okay. Well, I too will actually be wearing a costume this year, and
what are you gonna do?
One that's very apropos. There's still a couple pieces that I need to get a hold of before I can actually do it, because unfortunately it's one of those costumes where if you're missing one piece of it, it just doesn't work. But I am dressing up as Johnny Depp's portrayal of Hunter S. Thompson in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah. Hardest part, finding the sunglasses?
Actually, no. It's finding a place that still sells the cigarette holder that he's chewing on throughout the whole film.
Oh, yeah, that would be hard.
Yeah, because, without that, I just look like I'm going on a tropical vacation. So, because he spends the whole movie in Bermuda shorts and a Hawaiian shirt with a fishing cap. So, I need the cigarette holder to give the full illusion. So, but yeah, go ahead and laugh. Dr. Gonzo is going as the actual Dr. Gonzo. All right, which sort of brings us to our random topic of the week on a weird segue. And as we approach Halloween, we think that is, we kind of seeing all the attractions open up. And last weekend, I actually went with my girlfriend to Field of Screams up in Olney, which is this haunted trail that you can walk, and they have a bunch of different little houses set up that to look like slaughterhouses and haunted factories and all that good stuff. And we had a really good time, and it kind of got me thinking, if you were to design a haunted house, what would you put into it? So, Kat, I want to put it to you. What would be an awesome haunted house for you? Or have you been to any haunted houses in the past?
Not recently. I'm not a huge fan of haunted houses. Mostly because I don't like stupid jump scares and people with fake chainsaws screaming after me. I have a big anti that. I did go, when I went to Universal Studios a few years ago, I went around Halloween and they had haunted houses there. And they actually had a Silent Hill haunted house. And I, having not played the games, but having a general idea of things, went in and thought it was awesome.
Ooh, I yield the floor to you. Tell us about this haunted house.
I mean, there was like the creepy nurses, and at the end of it was like Pyramid Head, and the nurses jump out at you, but Pyramid Head just sort of like stands there and looms.
Well, that's what he does best.
Right. So it was quite apropos, but it was just dark and spooky and fog, obviously.
Well, Latoya was good and proper scared at Field of Screams, but I kind of thought the whole thing was silly because the thing is, like, right at the start of it, they tell you don't need to attack the actors; they're not going to touch you. So I was like, well, great, that's all the menace of it drained out of there for me.
So I don't know what I would want in my own. Like, if I could design a haunted house, I'd want it to be like a maze. First off, I'd want there to be a sense of, like, not quite an escape room, but like something hard to get out of.
Okay, now just for clarity, when you say a maze, are you talking about like a single path that winds and twists, but eventually leads to an exit if you just follow one direction, or an actual legit maze with dead ends and false doors?
With false doors.
Okay, all right. Because if a thing's worth doing, it's worth doing right.
Right. I want it to be a little bit of a challenge. I want you to get that anxiety of, will I ever get out of here? And if you had somebody potentially following you around said maze, maybe not necessarily with a chainsaw, but if you always, sort of saw something out of the corner of your eye, that is a cleverly placed, light trick shadow or something, that would be pretty creepy. Like subtle things. More Slender Man, less horror movie.
Okay, all right, cool, all right. I think I just came up with a really neat idea, and it all just kind of clicked on me. Resident Evil style laser tag. And the way this would work, you'd be put in sort of a mansion style setting, and it would be a good and proper maze with dead ends and false doors, and you'd be given a laser tag pistol to defend yourself with. But if any of the quote unquote monsters, red actors in suits, touched you, they would plant a thing. They'd kill you by sticking a thing on your body somewhere that would turn off your laser gun, and you'd be escorted out of the attraction, and whoever managed to make it to the end of the attraction would get some kind of prize, like, I don't know, their picture on the wall or $1,000 or something. So, but something where there's like actual tension and stakes, as opposed to just, look at the guy in the funny mask who's there screaming at me but can't touch me. So, because going back to Field of Screams, that was we were there for like 3 hours, and by the end of it, I was just cracking jokes at everything. Like, we went through it was supposed to be like an old abandoned house, and there was supposed to be like an old zombified grandma sitting in a rocking chair and screeching at the what's the word I'm looking for? The people who paid money to do this thing, customers. That's right. And I just saw her, and I was like, "Oh, Aunt Gladys, I thought you died 10 years ago. How have you been? We missed you at the last family reunion." So, but I think a Resident Evil style haunted house, which I heard there's actually one they open up in Japan, because of course everything cool is in Japan. We don't get any of the good shit over here in America.
Correct.
Where there actually is one, and I'd love to see it. So, okay, all right. So going back to you, what else would you put in your haunted house?
I don't know. I'm not very creative about that sort of thing. I mean, mostly just I want it to be very subtle, like for it to get increasingly scary. Like, I don't want a whole lot of like easy jump scares right away. I'd want something that like it builds the anxiety and makes you more and more paranoid and frightened slowly but surely.
Now I'll tell you what Field of Screams did that did throw me for a loop. At one point, they put you through one of those rotating tunnels where the walkway that you're on is actually stationary, but the tube around you is rotating. And it gave me really bad motion sickness and made me dizzy, even though I knew in my head that I was standing on a stationary walkway that wasn't moving. So, like, more stuff like that, I think would have improved the experience for me. But we're going to the Eastern State Penitentiary on Halloween night for the haunted prison tour that they do up there, and my sister has actually been to that, and she said that they're very hands-on there. Like, you sign a waiver, and the actors will like grab you and shake you around and shit. So
I wouldn't want that.
So yeah, if after Halloween you just never hear from me again, it's because I got grabbed, lost my shit, and punched the poor actor in the mush, and now I'm in jail. So
more so than doing a haunted house, one of the coolest things I've done for Halloween was to go to an actually haunted house. This place in St. Louis called the Lemp Mansion. That's one of the most haunted places in America. And around Halloween, you actually can take tours of it with paranormal investigators, and they'll lend you out these infrared cameras, and you can walk around with a paranormal investigator tour guide with all the lights off and go to see the really famous spots where everybody in the house killed themselves.
So
and
now,
it's real cool.
So now I have to ask, do they have a rule banning Ghostbusters cosplayers?
Not that I'm aware of. So well, if your group isn't very big when you go, then you get like paired with a couple other people, and some people that my family ended up with were really obnoxious. They were like taking flash photos when all the lights are turned down.
Oh,
so
God.
I was like starting to feel sick because they were taking so many flash photos. So my dad, being the ultimate troll, waited until they were in another room and found this like a what do you call it? It's like a sliding door between rooms, a pocket door.
Okay.
And while they were in another room and they were alone in that room, he rattled the pocket door as loud as possible, and they went screaming out of the room. It was amazing.
I tell you, it's something else I really like to see. You know those breakout games that you can go to where they lock you in a room and you got to solve puzzle stuff and get out? I want to see one just go full on like I want to see one just go full Saw over Halloween. Not like actually like, you know, hurting you or stuff, but like okay, you've got to find a key, and in order to do that, you've got to dig through this you know, this dummy that we filled with like you know, rubber organs and fake blood to make it feel like real organs.
You know what would be cool though is like an escape room or a haunted house where the walls shift. So like if you had an escape room like what you're describing, maybe not so much with the gore, but what if like you did an escape room where the walls were slowly getting closer and closer together?
Ooh, that would, yeah, I could see that being very triggering to someone with claustrophobia. Find someone with claustrophobia and throw them in.
Go with your company and you find that person that you hate the most.
Oh man. So yeah, I will report back after we come back from our Halloween break to report on how the Eastern State Penitentiary trip went. We're not actually doing a show on Halloween week this year because Halloween actually falls on our normal recording night. So we're actually doing the Halloween show a week early so that everybody can go on Halloween and have the night off and go get the shit scared of themselves, quite possibly very, very literally in my case. So yeah, that will be fun. So. And we're going to bypass Ask a Geek this week because we are just chomping at the bit to talk about this week's discussion topic, which is Voltron Season 4. Oh my god! I never thought it was possible for a show to just keep getting better every season, but somehow Voltron is doing it.
It's pretty impressive. I mean, it is a shame that as with Season 3, Season 4 is absurdly short.
Yeah. I'm thinking Brian's right. I think Castlevania set a bad precedent.
Yeah, and I totally get it because it basically means that they could, you know, spend more time on the show almost. Maybe like they get out half of it, get out 6 episodes earlier in the year, and then have more time to work on 6 episodes later in the year. You're still getting the same number of episodes you get per year. You're just getting a break in between.
Yeah, which it's a business model that makes sense. I mean, we got season 3 back in, I want to say, August or July, sometime over the summer. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Right.
So I think first and second season, and then the delay between the second and the third season was like at least a year, right? Or maybe not quite that long, but you know, we're getting if we can get, you know, 3 months in between a season rather than a year, I would take 6 episodes over 12.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get. So, Kat, why don't you give us a brief rundown of the events of this season?
Well, when we last left our heroes, what the hell was going on? No, really, I don't remember what happened because it ended on that huge flashback episode with Zarkon, and so I'm kind of like, I don't even remember where we left off, except on that really awesome Zarkon.
Well, at the end of season 3, Lotor had discovered another big, huge interdimensional comet.
Right, and then Zarkon was like,
Zarkon
in coma or something, and then Hagar had like awoken her memory of her life before she was Hagar and remembered that Zarkon was actually her husband.
Which I don't know how you forget that, but you know, whatever. Pidge was still searching for her family, and Shiro had come back to the team, and there were tensions because he couldn't pilot the Black Lion, and Keith was now the new leader, but he didn't want to be. And there was some doubt as to whether or not Shiro was actually Shiro or whether he was a Doombot sent to destroy the team from within.
Yeah, is totally not a thing.
I think that about covers it.
Okay, so when we pick up this season, Keith is still technically the team leader, but has sort of put Voltron on the back burner to hang out more with his new buddies at the Blade of Marmora. And it's starting to hurt the team a little bit because they don't have that unity. Obviously, they can't form Voltron. And Keith is just sort of being standoffish, and they don't really understand why, but they're all kind of generally miffed about it. And in the meantime, they have formed what is essentially called the Voltron Coalition, and it's all of these planets that have been liberated by Team Voltron, who are all banding together with the Blade of Marmora and Team Voltron to become the Rebel Alliance. and it's not quite going super great, but they are getting a lot more allies on their side, and they are like pretty busy helping people, you know, just like the day-to-day grind of saving everybody in the universe all day every day.
Yeah, and it comes to a head when part of the thing that they're doing as recruitment efforts for the Voltron Coalition is they're putting on the usual laser light shows. Like, oh, yeah, here's Team Voltron. The lions fly around and they do the Blue Angels thing. But there's only 4 of them, so they can't form Voltron, which, of course, you know, that's like going to a Guns N' Roses concert and Axl Rose isn't singing. What's the fucking point?
Right.
You know, you're going to a Voltron concert. Voltron's not going to show. Well, shit, I want my money back.
Right. You know? So that's basically where the first episode picks up, is this sort of tension between Keith and the team. Oh, doesn't that sound familiar? Over his commitment to Voltron and, you know, what the team should be doing from here.
And what really interested me about this sort of mini arc that played out between Keith and Shiro and the team is they all bring good points to the table. Like, no one's really portrayed as being, aside from Keith's flakiness and inability to shit or get off the pot about whether or not he's going to be on the team or not, no one's really portrayed as being, you know, overly silly or stupid about this. Shiro's like, okay, yeah, look, we need Voltron we need a unified team for Voltron, not just for these shows, but hey, if shit blows up, we need to form fucking Voltron. And
right.
Keith is like, and Keith's argument is, you know, the Blade of Marmora are finding all of this intel that could lead us to do a lot of good behind the scenes, and I really feel like that, you know, they could really use my hand on this. And what was great is they actually found a way via Deus Ex Machina, being Shiro getting the Black Lion to let him pilot it again, where everybody wins.
Right, and I thought that was great, not just because it was nice to have Shiro back in a lion, and I'm really interested in delving into Keith being a part of the Blade of Marmora, which I think this is a great turn of events. I'm also interested in it because it shows that the team is willing to continually shift, that they will, they're not like, it's not like sitting through 100 episodes of Sailor Moon where Sailor Moon is always the lead of the team. Like, you know, like the dynamic can shift and they make it work and it fits. So I mean, like the fact that they've even switched around as much as they have is actually kind of it's a kind of refreshing, even if their outfits don't match their lions anymore, which is kind of whatever. Anyway.
But then the episode ends, and here's where this arc just ends, and then we don't see Keith again until the second to last episode.
Right.
And I was like, because remember in I think it was season 2, we discovered that Keith was part Galra, and I was like, okay, he's joining the Blade of Marmora to more about, you know, Galra, and we see more of this plot point, and then nothing fucking comes of it.
Bubkiss, yes. That was like my one complaint, is that if they were gonna take Keith down the Blade of Marmora path, then we should have had an episode, and we'll talk later about where that would have been perfect. Just solely focused on him being part of the Blades and like hanging out with them like a day in his life as part of the Blade of Marmora. Like, there's definitely so much that they could have done, and I feel like this is down the Pidge route, which again we'll talk about, where Pidge
very soon, actually.
Episode 3 is like, look, I don't mind this Voltron stuff, but I want to find my family. And then, 3 seasons of absolutely no clues about Pidge's family. And then finally in season 4, that gets a payoff. So I'm wondering if we're going to get a payoff for Keith, but it's not going to be until next season.
We need to remember we got to keep some kind of perspective on this, because remember, these seasons are like, 6 are coming out like being like 6 or 8 episodes. So like 4 seasons for Voltron is like a season and a half for any other show.
Right.
So this will go a lot further in the post-release binge sessions.
Yes, for sure.
But speaking of Pidge, that brings us to the next major arc resolution, which, oh my god, if you want to talk about something that just rips your fucking heart out.
Oh my god. That fake out, like, I was crying.
Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's discuss how things went down in its due course. So the episode opens with Pidge on one of her expeditions to track down information. And and like as I call her, she goes Boba Pidge.
That's great.
Took you. I'm glad you liked it. I was scared when it took you a moment.
I had my microphone muted.
Oh. Yeah. When she tracks down this merchant who deals in the material that was being produced at the mine that her brother was kept at. And she's like, she goes full Darth Vader. She's like, I'm not going back on the deal. I'm altering it, but it's to your advantage. And dude just goes like fucking ape shit. And so she winds up beating the shit out of him and getting a possible location of her brother. Oh no, I'm skipping a step. She gets a name of someone who in the Resistance who I think someone who rescued her brother.
Yeah, but no, I think your order was right. She went to the dealer, and then the dealer somehow got a name, and then so she followed that person, and then got a signal tracker thing.
Yeah. Okay. So her search takes her to a rebel base, because of course it will. All roads lead to a rebel base, and winds up stopping an attack. And she meets with the base commander, who the person that she's looking for is actually the commander's second in command. And we get introduced to the Chekhov's gun of the transponder code, which got paid off again later in the season. And she finds that she gets her brother's transponder code, and this is where the heart rip comes. It leads her to this like half smashed planet that like the whole world has been turned into a giant memorial for people who have died in the fight against Zarkon and the Galra Empire. And the transponder code leads her to a grave site, and suddenly the screen gets very blurry, and no amount of whacking seems to fix it.
Yeah, that was hard thrown on the ground and stomp it a little bit, because she literally says, I was too late. Like it's all, like she blames herself.
I am convinced that the voice directors like shot the voice actress's cat before she filmed that scene, because it really sounded like she was crying. Yeah,
like it was heart-wrenching, and it was almost, I would say, one of the darkest things they've done in the show. I mean, this show has some dark stuff in it on occasion, and this is like the saddest.
And what made it even worse was like throughout this episode, we see kind of intercut with this flashbacks to Pidge on Earth, interacting with her brother, and we see that like he and their dad are the whole reason that she wanted to get into the Galaxy Corps, and how he's the reason he's the one who gave her glasses, and he's the reason why she worked so hard through school, and to get into the Galaxy Corps, and they taught each other a secret code. So it's like to see that happiness juxtaposed with holy shit, this guy is dead and has been dead for a while, or so we think, was just it destroyed me.
It was awful. It was, and then it turns out to be a fake out. And she realizes while she's at this gravestone that there's a code embedded into it that she can decipher the code. That's clearly from Matt, and it leads her to another base, and she's like, oh my god, he's alive. She goes there, starts a fight with the first person she sees, and voila, it's her brother! And we get the complete opposite of what we had just seen. We get the pure happiness that is these two on screen. The just absolute joy of having these two characters who, like, we've never seen Matt have more than like a handful of lines, but we've wanted her to find him.
And I think all of his lines are actually in this episode.
Yes, they all get flashed back to. And to finally get to see that reunion is, even though Matt has really not been in the show before, is amazing. We're so excited for them. And to finally get to see how the being in space and being part of a war has taken its toll on Matt. Here's Shaggy, he's got a scar. You know, he's actually a really great fighter now because he's had to learn how to take care of himself. Is really great. And to see that they immediately just got along and it's like they had never been apart, and they were just so great. And to have them on screen together, they have such great character chemistry. It was just absolutely divine. It was totally worth the 3 seasons on an episode that we had to wait for it.
Yeah, seeing these two interact, not just in this episode, but the next one, it was like I needed an insulin shot, because every moment of the two of them together, it's like, Pidge is just excited, like, oh, and this, this is my room, and this is where I sit, and this is my monitor where I do magic things, and this is a magic thing
Here's
that
some
I've done. And Matt's just like, oh, hey, but like, he's so proud of his little sister. Like, it was just so adorable to see these two interact, and I was like, oh, I need an insulin shot, or I'm gonna die right now.
Genuinely interested in everything. Like, he was so proud, but also so impressed in him as a genius scientist character who's also suddenly a really awesome fighter. Like, they're so close, they're so similar, and for him to just be like, wow, that's so cool, for everything, it was really, really, really heartwarming. And then the fact that he is also immediately in love with Allura is also hilarious, much
to Lance's chagrin.
But I'll kill you.
But what I liked is that they brought him into the show, and then they immediately gave him a purpose as well, because we see that he provides, all this other intel about Galra fleet movements, as well as access to the Resistance communication network. It's not a case of like, oh, we're going to bring this character on and he's just going to hang around and say something funny every once in a while. No, they actually gave him a role and a purpose within the team, which paid off at the end of this season.
And I suspect that's why they haven't brought in their dad yet, because I think if they bring in Mr. Holt, Papa Holt, that they won't have anything for him to do. And unfortunately, as much as I did love this shortened season, from characters not having enough to do, certain characters not having enough to do. So it was very nice that there was stuff for Matt to do once he got introduced.
I'm calling out. I think Dad is dead, and the reason why I say that is because as happy as this reunion was, they have to, for every good there must be something bad, and as adorable as these two, as Matt and Pidge are interacting with each other, and how happy their reunion is, the only way they're going to balance that is as they kill off Papa.
Right, and they might do it. I suspect, if anything, that if he is still alive, that he's in prison somewhere, has been tortured, and will be really messed up after this. But hopefully, I hope he's still alive. But for him to still be alive sort of brings back the question of, they don't ever have any direction to be going home anytime soon. And Papa Holt, with everything he's been through, probably would want to go home to his wife.
Yeah, I was going to say, Papa Holt, let's talk about Mama Holt. She has no idea where her fucking daughter is. Have any of these people made contact with their families back home at all?
No.
Like, what's the time frame that's been going on here? Like, there must be like several missing persons reports out on this game.
And we could talk about that in the things we hope to see for future seasons.
Okay. So, and of course there are other big arcs that of course, while all this is going on, the Galra Empire, both sides of it apparently, because there's been a bit of a split, have not been idle. Zarkon is back on the throne wearing a spiffy new suit of power armor. And Lotor is still up to his mischievousness, which we actually got to see, maybe not the absolute end game, but at least a step towards it in this season.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed because of that revelation that happened of the season, that they didn't touch on that much at all. And I think Zarkon still has no idea. But I think Hagar is having like a split personality con where she's like snapping in and out of her original personality where she remembers things, and then the Hagar personality. But I also kind of felt like she was being extra schemy this season. So I thought that there was a possibility that maybe she was going to try to undo some of her mistakes that she's made up until this point, because she has somewhere in her brain remembered who she is and realized that she's done a lot of bad stuff and maybe trying to make up for it. But no, that didn't happen. So I really don't know what's going on with her, but it's clear to me that she's got something going on that she has not revealed to Zarkon, and that they are both conspiring, obviously, against Lotor. They did reveal that Hagar Hanerva is Lotor's mother, but I'm not, because of their lack of memories being quite there, I don't know if Lotor realizes that Hagar is his mother, or if he knows that she is but sees them as separate people. Because once again, the existence of Lotor calls into question the timeline, because Zarkon started being insane like 10,000 years ago, and Hanerva started being Hagar like 10,000. And the only reason they've survived this long is because they have like over-absorbed quintessence.
Meanwhile, Lotor is 20 if he's a day.
Right, so he obviously, like, he looks normal, you know, and he's not totally insane, so I don't think he has over-absorbed a bunch of quintessence. The fact that he's going out and looking for, like, sources of it makes me think that there's something up with his relationship with his parents that, you know, like, I don't know. He doesn't look 10,000 years old. He also doesn't appear to be, like, wacky with quintessence. So my guess is that at some point in time, maybe he was put into a cryo sleep, and he, like, hates his dad for that reason. And that's why they're just constantly, ever since Lotor came in, he's been, you know, scheming against his father. And we don't quite know what his end game is. We know what his goals are, but not what the end game is, I would say.
Well, we saw at least a piece of the puzzle, because last season he was building those two ships out of comet stuff. And then this season, we got the reveal that he's had a secret facility that's actually managed to create a stable portal between the dimensions. So
right. So what he's up to with that is really interesting. It's actually a little more interesting than most of the stuff that went on with Voltron. Like, Team Voltron was not as interesting as what all the things I wanted to know about what Team Lotor.
Yeah, which isn't really much of a team anymore, because we had the one that I don't know if he turned traitor or if he just got puppet mastered by Hagar, but Lotor actually gave one of his team members a throat slicey for acting as the mole. And then the other three wound up turning on Lotor and were trying to turn him in for the bounty after he was declared an enemy of the state, which that was kind of a swerve.
It makes sense when you think about this entire show as Avatar in space. And
so by that logic, Lotor is Azula?
Yeah, actually, he's a much saner version of Azula, but he totally...
Which is not a high bar to clear.
Right. But yeah, that's it. Totally, to me, is exactly what happened to Azula, betrayed by his own team, who kind of remind me of Azula's team too. Gosh, it really is Avatar in space. But anyway, and I thought he was very diplomatic about it. Like, obviously, he just like slashed Narti because Narti was like being controlled or whatever by Hagar. But the other ones, he was like, fine, I got it. You've got to do what you've got to do, and I've got to do what I've got to do. And
what I got to do involves venting you into space.
Right, but like the fact that she didn't die, I think Lotor knew she wouldn't die. I think Lotor is pretty devious. He's not by any means a good person, but I think he does have this big soft spot in his Galra heart for all the other half-breeds like himself.
So now I guess the question is, what is he trying to do with the portal, and how do these two ships fit in? I still hold to the theory that the two ships come together to form a Galra Voltron of some kind.
That would make sense to me.
Yeah, but now the question of the portal is, what has he got planned there? If we assume that he's working against his father and therefore against the Empire, it would not be unreasonable of me to assume that he's going in there to try, I know he doesn't know about them, but to try and make contact with alternate universe Allura and bring an army from the other dimension to fight the Galra Empire. Which I don't know how he's going to pull that off with that one itty little portal, but hey, we'll see what happens next season. The only other thing that I can think of is if he's working on behalf of the Empire, he might be going in there to try and get a hold of the Dark Universe Voltron to use against our Voltron force.
Right. I'm almost wondering if he's looking for a place to chuck his father. Like
just trying to find a little interdimensional oubliette to just throw him in.
Right? The realm of eternal stench, like, just get you into a dark realm, like, seriously.
Like, just put you in an interdimensional trash can and get you out of my fucking hair.
Right, and I wonder if he's not just trying to harvest quintessence, via the portal, or if he really does want something from the other side of the portal.
Well, we can theorize all we want, but we do have a little bit of... Let's talk about the other big thing that happened, and that is basically fucking civil war has broken out. We finally, for the first 3 seasons, I kept raising the question: how does the Voltron team plan to actually take on an entire empire by themselves? And this season finally answered that question. They fucking don't. They've raised an army of like a third of the galaxy, and we see that whole army just go full ham on the Galra Empire in this season.
It was nice to see some of the characters and planets that they had traversed through the last 3 seasons uniting together, bring back some characters for some cameos and stuff, which also gave you a sense of danger because you kind of remember these characters, you're familiar with them, you don't hate them, so it does increase the sense of danger. It's not just Joe Schmo from Planet B, who you don't care about. I think that was very deliberate to give you the real sense of danger. And it was kind of, I don't know, it was so political, so strategic, so like, they had a very specific, very elaborate, specific plan going, okay, our most important thing that we can do is to capture this planet, it'll create a blockade, and then it was a
very long game they were playing.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, most of the time when we see Voltron fight, it's like, oh, we're going to go after this battle cruiser because Zarkon's on it. And, oh, Prince Lotor's over there, so we got to go fight him. And this was so high compared to that. It was just so very... It took a lot of brains. It was kind of nice to see something like that. The fact that it took like 2 episodes as well.
And it was 2 episodes just of mounting tension throughout. Like, they brilliantly paced out that large battle because the scale of it's literally a galactic scale battle that we see in this that has a lot of different moving parts that have to move in harmony. The Blade of Marmora has to capture this one planet-sized battle cannon while the Rebel Alliance captures another one. One of the cannons doesn't get captured, so they've got to turn the other one on it and destroy it, and that kind of hampers their plan. And meanwhile, at the same time, the main force is waiting for a signal from Voltron to attack this main planet, which turns out to be a giant fucking bomb.
Oh my god. The whole
A little
elaborate
excessive, Gara.
the whole blitz and everything, because that was the name of the episode, was built something blitz. Anyway, it really felt like I was watching Star Wars more than anything else. It felt like an elaborate Star Wars plan, but with giant robot Voltron. I really, really enjoyed that, especially because you really felt like it could go either way, because it's Voltron, okay, everybody's got to come out of this okay. They're not just going to kill a bunch of extras and have everything blow up in their faces. But because of the way Voltron's been, they do have everything blow up in their face a lot, and they do fail a lot, like a reasonable amount. So you really felt like it could go either way. They could succeed or they could fail, and everybody's in danger, and they're back to square one. And it was very tense. It was very tense, especially right at the end,
where Lotor comes in, and
well, it's not even that. Right before Lotor comes, and Keith is like ready to suicide bomb the whole thing, and that was like my second major fake out for it, because he was like right there. He was about to get himself killed, and everybody knew it. And everybody was like, Keith, no! And it was such a great fake out. I was super emotional.
See, I wasn't, because again, we had that first episode with him in the Blade of Marmora, and then he just fucked off for the whole season. It's like, they haven't done anything with you this whole season. I don't really care what happens to you anymore.
Well, see, I thought...
A relationship requires constant work, Keith. You need to understand this.
Well, my thought was, okay, like, what if they're Svenning him? What if they pulled him out of Team Voltron just to kill him off? Like, they eliminated him from being a necessity for the show, so they can do anything they want to him now. And that actually crossed my mind as he was fucking dive bombing this warship, and I'm like, oh god, no, they might actually do it, because I didn't see how they were going to get out of it, except in the back of my mind going, the only thing they have right now is Lotor. And I thought by the end of this season, either Zarkon was going to come to sanity and work with Team Voltron against Lotor, who would start to take over the Empire, or Lotor would end up working with Team Voltron against even crazier Zarkon. So I'm glad it went one way or the other, that we got one of these things. So
now, I didn't watch the original Voltron series growing up. Wasn't Lotor actually a part of Team Voltron at one point in the original anime?
I don't quite remember, because it's been a long time since I've watched it, but I seem to remember remembering that he was actually in love with Allura, so he would kidnap her a lot. So they definitely spent some time together. And when I go back to it, I keep thinking, okay, if Lotor really is 10,000 years old, and he must have known Allura before Zarkon and Anarvo went crazy. Like, their dads were BFFs. There's no way they didn't meet, like, once or something. But maybe not. I guess we'll see. There's so much that I will be interested to see what they do with Lotor allying with Team Voltron, if not straight up joining Team Voltron, because he's Zuko alone at this point. He's the bad guy who's been betrayed by everybody he actually cared about, and is gonna have to at least make a bit of peace with Team Voltron in order to not get dead.
So, but yes, this is definitely a season where everybody got to do something, including Karan.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Of course, nothing's perfect, and this season had its bald spots. Unfortunately, the biggest one was the Karan episode with the idea-giving brain slug.
Right. Now, in a season that's only 6 episodes, there is zero purpose of having filler. Filler is to expand out your season, to fill up, a bit of space where you just need to get another episode out there so you garbage. And this episode was definitely garbage that they did not have time for. There are so many other things that they could have been doing with an entire episode dedicated to Karan being kookier than normal. It was really very frustrating. I couldn't even actually watch the whole episode. I really couldn't. I just kept like walking out of the room to go do something else. Like I was like, no, let me fold my laundry, brush my teeth.
And you solve world hunger and change out the oil in my car. Well, if you didn't see the ending of the episode, at least something good came out of it because of his antics, they somehow managed to triple the size of the Voltron coalition. So at least something positive came out of it.
Right, and there's about a million other ways that they could have done that. And I love Karan. Karan is one of the best characters. But Karan is best when he's played equal parts absolutely cuckoo bonkers. And he's also very
dignified gentleman.
Yeah. He's also very knowledgeable. He's a fucking encyclopedia at times of information about things that they need to know that they would not otherwise know and that Allura wouldn't even know. Simply because he is the oldest person there. And then he's also very sentimental and very caring and a little bit protective. And he's best when you get all of those together. And that like second or third episode when they have to go to the Balmera and like get a big rock or whatever. And he's like a little bit goofy, but also very thoughtful, very knowledgeable and sentimental. And that's when Karan's at his best. That's when you like him the most. He can say weird things.
And have it make sense.
Funny words, mustache. And then he can also be very sweet. And that's when you like him. And this episode was a nice opportunity for Karan to shine. But it was really like watching a Sacha Baron Cohen film. Where you're just like
let's not say things we can't take back now.
Well, if I ever enjoyed the Sacha Baron Cohen film, I might, have some regrets. But like, he's fine in some things where, like, what was he in that I really liked? Hugo.
We're talking about Karan or Sacha Baron Cohen?
Sacha Baron Cohen.
Okay.
Hugo, where he plays a character who is flawed, kooky. Has a whole little character arc, really, really nice portrayal. And then you have him as, in any of his other films where he's just sort of like purposely obnoxious to get a reaction from people. And it kind of felt like that's what the whole Karan episode was. It was like, let's have our one personality trait that we ran. He's kooky. Let's have him be kooky. And yes, something good came out of it, but they could have done that in so many other ways that didn't dominate a whole episode.
Having a character shine means using some polish, boys.
Yeah. And honestly, there was a little more kookiness through this season specifically, and I felt like they were trying to channel anime quite a lot. They had like reaction takes and like weird moments where the style changed to get a good funny reaction from them, and it really felt like they were like hey, the people who like this show are the people who enjoy anime. We'll like make this very anime like sometimes, like the moment where Matt sees Allura and sees her with like hearts and like flowers and a circle and a heart, and he goes like super
I'm not gonna
Ikemen face and is like, hello. That was like so anime. That's definitely an anime thing.
So one specific anime. And the whole time that sequence going on, I was hearing the theme from Ouran Host Club in my head.
Right?
I was like, if you start singing Kiss Kiss Fall in Love, I'm switching to Castlevania.
Oh my god, that would have been amazing. Somebody do that. Somebody please do that. Edit that video. And I don't think it quite, like, sometimes it worked, but I think they kind of overdid it in a couple of episodes, which brings me back to they didn't have enough, because most of that, what I saw that out of, was Karan and Allura. And they just didn't seem to have enough for Karan and Allura to do mid-season, because they were so busy going, hey, Page's arc, and Keith's arc, and Shiro's arc, which is the same arc Shiro's always had. Lance didn't really have an arc, but he's always been a little more on the comedic relief side, and I really, really want Lance to shine a little bit more, because right there at the end, he kind of encouraged Laura, and where nobody else thought to. And it made me wonder, okay, what do you do with Lance here? Because it's really interesting that he was the one who encouraged Laura and made her see, yes, I can channel Altean BS Deus Ex Magica and make Voltron magically stronger for whatever reason. And then she was like, yay, thank you, Lance. And he's like, no, girl. Yeah, where's this going? Please tell me we're going to have an arc addressing the fact that he believes in her more than anyone else. I shipped that ship just a little bit, guys. I just shipped that ship.
He is her Kamina.
Yeah. So there's so much still that they could do. And once again, it's a shame it was only 6 episodes.
Okay, so let's talk about some other standout moments in this season that we really enjoyed, whether they be big, awesome battles or little funny moments. And I'm going to open with the little running joke that ran over 2 episodes about the origins of the milkshake.
Oh my god!
So, for those of you who've been following the series, you will recall Kaltenecker the cow, who got picked up in, I want to say, season 2. And she's apparently living on the ship with Allura and the Voltron crew. And Hunk, the chef, introduces Allura and Karan to the Earth beverage, the milkshake, which they absolutely love. And so they decide that if they're going to get more, they're, instead of doing the smart thing and asking the person who made the damn things, to go right to the source. So they go to Kaltenecker, and it's like, oh, you know, if it's not too much trouble, could we maybe have some more milkshake? Very, very Oliver Twist, like, you know, please, sir, could we have some more? And Kaltenecker, who's a cow, just moves. She just gives 0 fucks. She's like, look, I've got my grass, I get milk, that's all I give a shit about. So.
And like the Lance showing, look, the cow doesn't make the milkshake, it just makes milk. So here's what we gotta do, and it's showing them how to milk the cow, and they're terrified.
I'm not sure what they were terrified of more: how the cow actually gets milked, or the fact that we actually got shots of the cow enjoying it.
Yeah, that whole scene was really, really weird, even by Voltron standards.
Kaltenecker was getting some 12:30 time in that scene.
Yeah, a scene that I really liked was the whole opening scene, which was the Blade of Marmora. And even though I thought Keith was kind of obnoxious because he's obviously not telling his team how he really feels about stuff, and then, yeah, one of them is Keith at the end, and you're like, cool, I totally felt that. But it was really just neat seeing them all work together. Like Ulra, like one of them's flipping the tail around and stuff, and you're like, this is kind of interesting, because we don't see the Blade of Marmora very much. We don't see them out of context of, you know, like, usually when we see them, they're with Voltron.
They're there for everybody else to hate because they're Galra.
Right.
Which is pretty much all that happened with them in season 3.
Yeah, and then we don't really see them just spying around and stuff like that. So it's always great to see them in combat, because they have a really cool combat style with their blades and everything. So it was really cool to not just see them, but to totally pick up on that it's Keith with them, and to see how much Keith has improved as, you know, a blade combat type guy.
Yeah. So yeah, that was definitely neat to see the Blade of Marmora utilized a lot more. I was really hoping we would get more of the 4 generals and get more into their headspace, because they really only kind of, like, especially that one, the blue-haired chick who pulls a George and Lenny on Lotor. Obscure literature reference. Here's hoping somebody gets that. Read a damn book. We didn't really get to see into their headspace very much this season, despite the fact that they were very prominent in season 3. So I would really like to see. I think the blue one has the hot for Lotor. I think I think she wants to do such and such with him.
Yes, for sure. But she still betrayed him, or did she?
We don't know.
There could still be a scheme going on behind the scenes.
And that's the problem with the season being so short, is they've teased so much but given us so little.
Yes. Right, okay. one of the scenes that I really enjoyed that happened right at the end, big final battle. The crushing weight with the gravity going down is keeping Voltron from being able to get up or move around. And it was really interesting because they actually very briefly abandoned Voltron while it was still formed, which I don't think has happened before. Usually, like, there'll be separate lions and they'll get out of their lions, but not usually Voltron. But that's not what was interesting. What was interesting was the animation of how gravity affected the characters after they got out of Voltron. I just really liked the way they were kind of bouncing around. Like, I don't know, it was like the way gravity behaved was very strange. Because they were clearly in an area that should not have had gravity, but there was like gravity keeping them down or something. I don't quite get how it worked, but it looked really cool because they were sort of bouncing around like they didn't have a lot of gravity, but then they were all stumbling and falling and like doing tumbles and stuff. And just the way that looked was really, I mean, as much as not realistic it is to have any of this stuff going on, the way that even though they could bounce around a little bit, the way that they just kept falling all the time was just so realistic.
We're talking about a cartoon series about 5 mini robots that come together to form one giant lion robot. I think we've abandoned any pretense at realism here.
Right, of course. But it was just so much fun to sort of watch them stumble.
So, all right, so we're kind of running close to the end of the show. So let's close out this episode with what we would like to see in season 4 or wild and baseless speculations as to what is going to happen. So, Kat, you first.
Wild and baseless speculation, not so baseless. Lotor is going to meet up with the good guys. I don't actually foresee them like working together as a team. Maybe like Lotor as like a solo operative who occasionally feeds them information. But I think any sort of hearty questioning of what he's really up to will make them not want to work with him. But I also think he's got some parental issues that will make, I think, will make him a more, maybe more of a tragic villain kind of character, or at least a more interesting and deeper anti-hero. He doesn't really seem like a bad guy, because he's not overtly evil like Zarkon. So I don't know. I think we'll get more of Lotor's backstory next season, probably as a bunch of just info dump that Lotor will heft upon Team Voltron to seem more sympathetic. Whether or not he actually will end up betraying them to his own gain, probably going to happen. I would like to see his dynamics with the team after fighting them after all this time. I'd like to see his dynamics with Allura, simply because he is actually half Altean. And I'm not convinced that anybody really knows that. If Allura hasn't met him previously, before Zarkon went crazy, then it might actually come as a surprise to all of them that he's half Altean, because I don't think any of them have actually met him face to face yet. So that could be potentially very interesting for Allura to interact with. I'd like to see what Hagar's really up to, if she's still evil, or if she's scheming something else, if her whole plan was to get rid of Voltron and get rid of Lotor, and then what? I really, really want to see what she's up to. I'd like to see a saner version of Zarkon, but I guess not. He just came back angrier.
Okay. As for me, I will say that as far as what I want to see the most, it's the same thing that I've said for the last 2 seasons. I want to see them finally go back to Earth, basically. I want to see them reestablish contact with Earth and with their homes, with their families, because, I mean, this whole thing got kicked off with the Galra Empire going to Earth in search of the Blue Lion. And I feel like that plot thread was just kind of left hanging. So I want to see, did the Galra Empire go back? Is Earth now enslaved? Do they still think that Earth is just a planet full of talking monkeys and they're not even bothering with it? Is the Earth Defense League coming up with some kind of battle plan to fight the Galra Empire or to defend itself against an attack if one comes? What's going on there? And then there's the whole fact that, these are basically with the exception of Shiro, these are kids who have been away from home for, a good length of time, and I'm sure that their mothers and fathers and siblings are just worried to death about them.
Yes,
so
I would love to see them go back to Earth. I'd love to see them actually address the fact that Lance is Cuban. He's not American, even though he is portrayed with an American accent. But his character is from Cuba, and I think it would be really interesting for them to maybe bring up, like, they actually all have different, not all, but several of them have different nationalities that would be interesting to get, a little more culturally into the show. And then if, for fuck's sake, can we please have some backstory on where Keith comes from? Please?
You know what?
Seasons? What the fuck?
I just realized there's a potential thread I didn't even think about them going, and that's throughout this whole time we've seen the Earth people, having to get living with Allura and Karan and dealing with the way Altaeans do things. Let's throw Allura and Karan on Earth and be like, hey, this is Earth culture, bitch. Let's see how you acclimate to this.
Karan, let's go to an Earth shopping mall. Oh my god, that would be great. Especially if you could get some of the Blade of Marmora in on it too. Get some Galra there. Get anybody just for some reason go to Earth and explain what happened to the original Paladins after they got their lions to the planets that they found them on.
Yeah, that's another thing that's never been explained is what exactly happened when how exactly did the parting of the ways go with the original Paladins. So far the only two that we know what happened are Zarkon and King Alfor. We don't know what happened to the other three Paladins.
Right. I seem to remember it was they were gonna pilot the lions away so that Zarkon couldn't get a hold of him, but did they autopilot them there, or did they what happened? I'm so curious about how that all went down, and if that could possibly relate to the fact that Lance was immediately chosen as the blue pilot, even though in the first episode, Keith talks about how he was drawn out there, where the blue line ended up being. He felt like he was drawn there. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff that hasn't been addressed with how the lions ended up on their planets and, why these people in particular. There's a lot they could do that I really hope they get to.
I also want to see Lance start wearing red because, damn it, you're not in the blue line anymore and shit is getting confusing.
Right. It's a little infuriating.
You are out of uniform, soldier!
And so is Allura, but we don't complain because she's a girl, so she just has to wear pink, whatever.
Well, she's a princess. She can wear whatever she damn well pleases.
That's true.
So, but anyway, that's about all the time that we have for Nerd to the Third Power this week. Thank you as always for tuning in. We will see you next week for our Halloween Spooktacular. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see you next week. As always, I'm Dr. Gonzo.
I'm the cat.
We'll see you next week. Taka, play us out.